Today, I'm going to show you the stupid simple strategy that made me 280 points or $5,500 profit live on stream. And you're going to learn how I did my top-down analysis, how I identified my buyers and draw on liquidity, and how I managed my trade and my entry. And at the end of this video, I'm going to give you my 3 trading lessons, which 90% of traders don't follow, and that is why they constantly fail in trading. So the first trade which I took was on NQ. It was a short position. I went short over here and I covered over here. This trade lasted for about 35 minutes from my entry to my exit, and I made about 1.5k on this trade. So starting off on the daily chart for my analysis, its first price is in a downtrend. Price is extremely bearish. As we can see, we have this bearish daily CRST. We have expansion towards the downside. And so the next logical target would be this candle's low. Wednesday's low. And also I marked out Wednesday's open. So that is my level of sell-side liquidity, which I marked out on the daily chart. Dropping down to the 4-hour chart, we can see we are extremely bearish. Price is really heavy and is constantly dumping lower. We came up into this 4-hour fair value gap plus volume imbalance. We swept the previous candle high and we dumped lower. Going down to the 1 hour, we can see it much clearer. This 1 hour fair value gap, we came up into it, we rejected from it, and we dumped lower. Down to the 15-minute, we can still see this 1 hour fair value gap, and now it's quite obvious. After coming up into this 1 hour fair value gap, we came down, we formed this 15-minute bearish CRST as I marked out by the red line. Then we came up again, formed this bearish SMT with ES, and formed a secondary CRST out of it. Now on the 5-minute, we can see the same thing basically. We have this SMT with ES, and price just dumped right after that. Down to the 3-minute, we can see after the SMT, we just dumped lower. And then we retraced into this fair value gap on the 3-minute, with a slight retracement into this fair value gap. And by this point, I'm already bearish. After seeing such a bearish displacement to the downside, I knew price was going to head down towards Wednesday's open and Wednesday's low. So I was just waiting for an entry for me to get involved. And when price retraced into this fair value gap, that gave me the perfect opportunity for me to go short. So dropping down to the 1-minute, we can see we came up into the 3-minute fair value gap. As you can see over here, this 3-minute fair value gap, we came up into it, we dumped from it, formed this bearish CRST. So I went short right there after the candle closure, stop loss above those highs. My take profit was initially set at Wednesday's low, right? I initially set my take profit at Wednesday's low. However, we can see price came down, we came back higher, we came down and started consolidating. Right, we are starting to consolidate a bit, and generally whenever we have an expansion, we want to see price just dump right towards our target. We do not want to see any consolidation, we do not want to see any weakness or strength from price over here. So once price formed this bullish CRST at 10:45, I decided to close the trade manually for a profit, because at this point it's already really close to the end of my trading session. I trade from 9:30 to 11, so it's quite close to the end of my trading session, and so price formed this bullish CRST. And we were just consolidating before hitting the target. So I just decided to close it for profit. So that is the first trade. Again, really simple. We identified the order flow on the higher time frame. It was quite bearish. We wait for a retracement. We head to a lower time frame, which is the 1-minute. Have the confirmation over here in the form of this bearish CRST. And once we have the confirmation, I went short, stop loss above the high, and take profit at the next logical target. So really simple, really easy. So these are my executions. Again, all the trades I'm showing you in this video was taken live on stream with my mentorship. So this was a screenshot from the live stream. You can see my execution. I sell over here and I bought back over here. So this is the second trade which I took. This was also a short position. I went short over here and I took full profit over here before price reversed towards the upside. So this was a really quick trade. You can see I entered at 9:48 and I exited at 9:52. Literally less than 4 minutes basically. Really quick trade, really nice. 1.8k profit, about 93 points. So let's get into the breakdown. Starting off on the daily as usual, we can notice a few things here. First is we had this massive dump as you've seen earlier, right? When I took the short position in this candle. This is Wednesday's low. The previous trade was a short in this candle. And after that, price reversed back towards the upside. So at this point, it is 50-50. Are we going to expand up towards this high? Or are we going to reject back lower, down towards this low? At this point, we do not know. So we just mark out our key levels on the high time frame. So the two levels which I can spot is this daily fair value gap over here So this is the full fill of the fair value gap over here. And the daily breaker block. So price is currently within the daily breaker and also this daily fair value gap. Dropping down to the 1 hour, we have this swing high over here. Price came down, formed this swing low. We came up, swept that swing high, rejected lower, came up again, swept this swing high. We swept it into the daily fair value gap full fill, and we formed this massive bearish rejection. You can just look at the size of the wick, and you can see price went all the way up here and rejected from it, which is a massive sign of weakness. Drop down to the 15-minute, we can see it much clearer. We swept buy side liquidity, right? We came up, we swept buy side liquidity, we tapped into the daily fair value gap full fill, and we had this massive bearish reaction, which means price is really weak and we're looking for lower prices at this point. So on the 1 minute, after we had expansion towards the daily fair value gap full fill over here, we dumped. First initial bearish CIST. After forming this bearish CIST, I did not go short because we could very well come down into this fair value gap and expand higher. So I wanted to wait for more confirmation. So we have the single CIST, bearish CIST. We came up, we swept the high, we formed a secondary CIST. So at this point, it does seem that price wants to go lower, because if you wanted to go higher, we would have swept this high. We would have broken past this high. Instead, we rejected it and we dumped lower, forming a secondary bearish CIST. After this massive dump, price retraced back higher. I went short over there, stop loss above this swing high, and take profit at 8:30 open. So that's the 8:30 opening price. That's why I took profit. You can see it even clearer on the 30-second. 9:30 open, aggressive expansion towards the upside. We reversed, formed the first bearish CIST. We tried to go higher, but we failed to break this high. So once we formed the lower high and we failed to break this high, that's the indication for me to show that price is bearish and we want to hit lower. So then we formed this bearish CIST. I wait for a slight retracement. I went short, stop loss above the swing high, take profit at 8:30 open. Alright, so here's my executions. As you can see, initially I did try a trade over here, which was a break-even trade. And ultimately I made most of the profit from this trade. So initially went break-even and the second trade was a winner. Again, this was a screenshot from my live stream. As I said, I take everything live on stream, my explanation, my analysis, my breakdown, everything just like what I'm doing here. And this final trade was taken on a Friday. It was a Friday. So I went short over here and I covered over here. So this was a 100-point trade, made about $2,200. And it took about 20 minutes. It's a 20-minute trade. So let's get into the breakdown. This time we're starting off on the weekly chart. Price has swept this weekly candle high. So we mark out this high. We swept that high, which is a key level, by the way. The previous daily high and low, the previous weekly candle high and low, previous session high and low, previous candle high and low. All of those are time-based liquidity levels, which is a key level of liquidity in price action. So we swept this weekly high. Then we came down to the 1 hour. After coming up into this weekly high, what can we notice? Price came up into it and formed this bearish rejection on the 1 hour. So when we have a rejection like this, more than likely, it is indicating weakness in price action and price wants to go lower. This is a sign of weakness. Because if we are bullish, it would just blast straight through it. We'd have a bullish expansion candle right through the previous week high. But we didn't. We came up and we rejected it. And in that rejection, we formed this wick. So dropping down to the 15-minute, we can see it's quite clear. First, we swept sell side. We came down, swept sell side liquidity, expanded towards the previous week high. And then we tried to move higher, but we failed to do so. You can see all these massive wicks. We tried to move higher, but we failed. We tried to move higher, but we failed. We tried to move higher again, and we failed. So multiple rejections at this point. So down to the 5-minute, we can see we formed this bearish SMT, which is another sign that price wants to move lower. We formed this bearish CRST, and we have data lows over here. 3-minute chart, again, we can see the same thing, bearish SMT, bearish CRST. So all the time frames are aligning. We have a bearish CRST on the 5-minute, on the 3-minute, and then on the 2-minute. So once we swap buy side over here, bearish SMT, bearish CRST once again. We came up into it. I went short, take profit at a daily low. stop loss above the swing high. On the 1 minute, we can see the same exact thing. Again, bearish CRST came up, secondary CRST, and just dumped lower. So this is my execution. I tried a short earlier that ended up a break even. Then I went short once again, and that ended up a profit. So what are the 3 lessons which most beginner traders do not follow? Number 1, they overcomplicate their strategy. As you can see on this chart, I don't really have many levels on the chart. Like if you just look at this, it's really simple. We have liquidity, SMT, CRST, liquidity. Really simple, really easy. So when you overcomplicate a strategy, you have so many different things you're looking for, and it's much easier to get confused, mess up your analysis, or get overwhelmed. So that's the first mistake most people make. The second mistake most people make is they trade on low probability days. They trade on no news Mondays. They trade before a high impact news event. They trade during consolidation profiles. They trade during seek and destroy profiles. They trade when price action is chopping around. So when you trade during those low probability conditions, more than likely you're going to get chopped up. And when you get chopped up, you lose a lot of money, you blow your accounts, and it just messes up your psychology and your strategy. So the number one advice I can give anyone is to only trade when your setup is there. Is to only trade when those light bulb A+ setups appear. If there's no A+ setup, do not take a trade. Simple as that. And number 3, most important, is to always manage your risk. The easiest risk management framework you can follow is to keep a fixed amount of risk per trade. For example, let's say I have a prop firm account for $50,000 and the drawdown is about $2,000. So I can decide, okay, I'm going to trade, and every trade I take, I'm going to risk a maximum of $200. So every trade I take will be a $200 risk. Fixed risk for every single trade. Simple, easy, and it's much easier to be profitable when you have the same risk for each trade instead of acting on emotions and increasing or reducing a risk as you see fit. For most of the traders out there, especially if you're a beginner, keep your risk management fixed, risk a fixed amount every single trade. And of course, be sure to have a good strategy, a simple strategy to follow. Like you see, every single trade I've taken in this video, as you can see, has been simple, easy, and really straightforward, from my analysis from the daily chart all the way down to the 1-minute chart. So hopefully that's been useful. And if you want to learn my simple trading strategy and trade live with me, click the first link in the description to join the mentorship right now. So with that said, I will see you in the next video.